5 points off second or 5 points off 17th? Is your glass of mulled wine half full or half empty? Welcome to Blue Monday's The Weekend Preview, an Ipswich Town podcast. Hello and welcome. My name is Henry Chard and alongside me is George Solomon, and the pair of us have been let out from behind a paywall this week in the absence of Rich and Seb's pre-match show tonight. Not sure what they're up to. Don't know whether it's late night Christmas shopping at Tower Ramparts. Maybe they've gone to the theatre together. Maybe get your best answers on what Rich and Seb are up to tonight in the chat, and we'll put some of the best answers up. But welcome to first-time viewers of the weekend preview. We're looking ahead to Ipswich's huge fixture in the Championship on Saturday at Portman Road against league leaders Coventry City. George, welcome along. Hope you're doing all right. You were at Ewood Park on Tuesday. We've had a lot of fallout since that 1-1 draw, and everyone can go back and listen or watch the post-match reaction show with Mikey and Craig. But what was the mood like in that away end at full time?
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say that I'm in for a much more enjoyable night tonight, sat here spending an hour with you and everyone who's joined Henry and I, who, like he said, have been let out from behind the paywall. So, hello everyone. It was a difficult evening. It was one of the sort of least enjoyable away days I've done for a while. The atmosphere weirdly, the atmosphere right at the end of the game had sort of somewhat buoyed because we did have obviously the goal to semi-celebrate, but as Henry and I were saying beforehand, didn't really feel like a goal worthy of celebration. A really sort of a week that could have been brilliant, and we could have gone into Saturday with a massive spring in our step, has actually turned into what feels like quite a sort of pivotal moment in not just the season, but perhaps even McKenna's reign in charge. Yeah,
it certainly feels like it could be a huge game on Saturday for defining our season. Let's get into Saturday's game then. Sorry to our regular top tier viewers who like consistency, as I do with my podcast, but we are switching the running order around a bit for this week's show, starting with that game on Saturday in Suffolk. The Sky Blues visit us on Saturday at 3 p.m, which is always nice as well. And after the last couple of results, which you've just alluded to, and perhaps performances, this feels like a real sort of crunch point of our season, doesn't it, George?
Yeah, I mean, there's a comment there from Paul that says the next two games define our season, in my view. And Henry and I, we regularly chat during the weekend, and I sort of said to him after the weekend that, you know, we could go to Blackburn, not win, and then if we lose on Saturday to Coventry, who, I think Coventry are 2-1 to beat us, which is semi-tempting odds, to be honest. I think I would make them favourites going to the game, but they aren't. If we don't win on Saturday, we could be sort of mid-table, marooned in December, and that is a bit of a shock, really. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected that even a couple of weeks ago, probably after the Hull game. But perhaps performances have sort of been leading us to this point, and Henry and I often speak on our show about you have a gut feeling as a fan, but actually that's usually rooted in nothing. It's just kind of, we will get better, and we all have hope and we all have optimism. But as we've said all season, the performances have been sort of stodgy, and we've not really ever got going. And probably in hindsight, this was maybe more likely than us clicking and everything going really well. So I would love to bring some positivity to this evening, and I will give it a go. But I feel that Coventry are favourites for Saturday, and that leaves us in a difficult spot.
Yeah, the league is so condensed at the moment. I think, as you say, a win will take us right back into it. A defeat will leave us sort of feeling glum, and that perhaps is why it's affecting our sort of mood swings each week. One week we're sort of thinking we're taking a couple of steps forward, looking more a team, and then we lose a couple and fall down the table a little bit, and it's all doom and gloom. So perhaps that is just also aided by how tight the league table is, because we could find ourselves lower reaches of the top half come Saturday. Hopefully not, though. But a lot of talk about rotation and how it benefits us in these busy periods and will benefit us later in the season. There's little to suggest that is the case at the moment, I think. But we're probably looking at another 5 changes at least, do you think, on Saturday, aren't we, from Tuesday night?
Well, that's the thing with all of the rotation. Typically, if we don't get a win, people then ask, well, let's have a settled side, but also let's bring back X, Y, and Z. And that leads to, again, a load more changes. I definitely feel as though we will see a fair few changes on Saturday. And obviously, for McKenna at half time to bring on 2 players is almost unheard of. And actually, I was quite cheered in the away end to see that, because at least it was an acknowledgement from McKenna of that first half being turgid and poor, and also we were just outplayed and outfought. So I think we can expect some big changes. His post-match comments, and I think AD's just popped it in the chat there, they were probably about as downbeat as we've seen McKenna for a long time, and there was hints that certain players aren't reaching that potential, and I wonder if we may see some surprises. Now, because he's rotated the squad so much, it's hard to really feel like there'll be a big surprise, but there may be somebody coming from the cold who's been doing the job in training. Could that be Cam Humphreys? Could it be a Ben Johnson, a Harry Clark? We might just see him really sort of throw caution to the wind and bring someone in, but we can expect changes. I think let's hope that that we do start to see it settle down, because I think it's just given fans another sort of reason to bemoan the current situation. But yeah, it's not worked. And I think if you're winning games, it's fine. But when you sort of hit a run of form that we're currently in, it's hard for fans to get behind the constant rotation. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, at the risk of sort of sounding like a dinosaur as well, I'm all for consistency to build those. We've been saying sort of this is a new side. They need to gel. That's been the buzzword, and we will get better. But I just think it must be so hard as a squad to build these partnerships when there are 5-6 changes every week. I understand modern football, that is part and parcel of the game. We have on paper, sort of embarrassment of riches at this level, but when we're attacking, there are no patterns that we've become used to. And again, we don't like to hark on about all that double promotion winning team, but it was very obvious what worked and where the players would be, certainly attacking wise. I think defensively we're pretty sound. We know how we're going to try and build up. We're not as good at it as we were when we had a Sam Morsey on the half turn taking the ball from the centre halves. But yeah, I would like to see a far more settled side. But I think we just have to accept that is not what's going to happen at the moment. It's looking ahead to Coventry as well on Saturday. It's been said already this season that we've had a lot of teams come to Portman Road and shut up shop and come for the draw, and a lot of people have bemoaned that it's within every team's right to come and do that, and I certainly don't blame them for coming to Portman Road to do that. We've also said when we play a team that comes at us, it might suit us more. The one that originally springs to mind for that is Middlesbrough, and that didn't particularly pan out that well. But I highly doubt Coventry are going to come and sit in. But so does that fill you with a bit of fear given our current form, or do you think at home against a team like that, it might be an approach that suits us on Saturday?
I think a couple of weeks ago, I would have been all aboard the train of this. A team that wants to come and play and sort of go man for man. We should have enough to kind of at least compete with them. But then on Tuesday night, not to hark back to it again, but Blackburn, they didn't sit off. They pressed us really hard. They were quite clever with sort of cancelling off passing lanes and going man for man, and we could not get out. And not only could we not get out, but we continued to do the same thing over and over again. And what worries me is if we sort of go into Coventry with the same approach, Coventry will nick the ball in the positions that Blackburn did and be way more efficient and effective with it. So, I think you have to hope that McKenna, his halftime subs and his approach after the game hints at basically that won't happen again. And I think it wasn't necessarily tactics on Tuesday. It was individual performances were nowhere near good enough. So, yeah, we'll see. I think it's better that they do want to come at us, and maybe we'll get a slightly open, topsy-turvy game, and maybe that will kind of get us as a group of players going. But yeah, like I said before, I have Coventry as favourites for this, and I hope that the players turn up and that the supporters turn up, and it's a brilliant afternoon for everyone who's going to be there. But yeah, I certainly don't feel as confident about a team coming at us as I did a few weeks ago.
You mentioned the supporters there. How important is the atmosphere going to be on Saturday? I think after that Charlton home defeat, I was sort of slightly nervous. I think we had West Brom up next, and I was sort of nervous it was going to be a real edgy sort of, if things aren't going away and the passing out from the back is not going to plan, that it can get really nervy at Portman Road. If Coventry, for example, go a goal up, the atmosphere is going to be really important because it's not going to help turning on the home side, is it?
Yeah, and even in the away end at Ewood Park, I wouldn't say the atmosphere was particularly bouncing. Lots of people around me getting on the backs of players, and it was a performance where you somewhat understand that, but yeah, you have to keep in the back of your mind that you're not helping anyone. And yeah, Paul has just said their first goal on Saturday is crucial. I mean, first goal is probably crucial in almost every championship game. And as the stats gone around, since we've gone behind in 30 plus games now, we haven't come back and won. So yeah, first goal is definitely crucial. But if we don't get it, then I do worry for the atmosphere. But I'm sure you'll be backing the boys, Henry, up in the old Britannia.
Yeah, I'm come old man myself, but yeah,
yeah.
I am looking forward to a Saturday 3 p.m. We haven't had many this season. Team for Saturday then. We've mentioned we think there's going to be a lot of changes, but what would you like to see? I think the main talking points are: is it Greaves or Keepray as centre back? Is Furlong going to come back in for Ashley Young? Who partners Matasiwa in the middle? And I'll also throw in, if we had an alternative, do you think Matasiwa might be taken out the firing line? He's been probably our best player this season, and certainly the signing that has worked the most, but I don't think there's any hide in the last 2 games. He has not had a good week.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think because I think even if we did have an alternative option, I think Matasiwa would still play on Saturday. I think he has been our best player this season, and yeah, he was slightly sloppy in possession the other night. He picked up that yellow, which I don't think was a red, by the way, but it could have been on another night. So yeah, he'll definitely play. I think that I would like to see Nunes partner him, to be honest, because that playing out from the back, Taylor can't do it. We've seen that too often now. Matasiwa can't really do it. Kayust came on the pitch at half-time and looked like the best player in the league for 5 minutes, and then sort of disappeared again, as he has a will to do. That's probably one of the most frustrating elements of the season, because he has a lot of the attributes that we're missing at the moment, and he does show them in little bursts, but nowhere near consistently enough. So yeah, I'd hope to see Nunes play in that deeper role, but against a side like Coventry, I can also see McKenna sticking with Taylor and Matasiwa, because it is probably our most solid pivot at the moment. At the back, Furlong comes back in, absolutely no doubt about that. And yeah, I mean, who knows with Greaves and Keepray? I said in the Telegram group after the whole game, Greaves was probably our second best player after O'Shea, who by the way, interested to hear views in the chat, but I think O'Shea has been fantastic for the last few games. Which kind of says a lot, to be honest, but I think he's been excellent. And I felt like Greaves has sort of wrestled that shirt back off Keepray, but I think Kipray's now started 7 of the last 9 games, or 6 of the last 8. So, yeah, who knows with that one? Who knows in midfield? Who knows in the 3 behind? I'd be stunned if Hurst doesn't come back in, so that's probably one that we can chalk up and say for sure. I think Philogene will start on the left. I don't think Clark did a lot on Tuesday to kind of keep that shirt. But will he sort of finally rip up the rule book and put somebody who hasn't been played there yet into the 10? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you've discussed it from the start of the season. You've been an advocate of a 4-3-3, and the more the number 10 hasn't worked, the more you sort of tend to agree with that. But we don't even have the personnel really to do a 4-3-3 either, because we just are lacking in central midfielders. So yeah, who knows who's going to be able to. I said it a few weeks ago. I wouldn't mind seeing Philogene in the 10 and Clark out on the left, because quite simply nothing else has worked in the 10. And when Akpom plays there, I think he comes so deep that he leaves whoever the centre forward is so isolated, and the number 10 is there primarily to create and score goals, and no option we've put there has worked so far. Really pleased for Vola Egler on Friday, getting it on Tuesday, getting his first goal, and I'd like to see him come in on the right. He just gives us more of an attacking threat, I think, than sort of a workman like McAteer. And yeah, up front it is going to be Hurst, because every time he's not started, you do notice a real drop off. Even though we've all been saying Hurst has not been his best this season, I think we really miss him when he's not starting. So yeah, it's anyone's guess who's going to be there on Saturday 3 p.m. And because the level there's not a huge drop off between a Philogene and a Clark on the left. It's not a scandal whoever one of those plays, and similar on the right at the moment. It's a toss up between McAteer and Vola Egler. So we will see. Let's have a bit of a chat about Coventry. I have seen we've got a Coventry fan watching, Glenn Watkin, the Sky Blue hub, so he can point us right if we go wrong on any of this. It's not going to be as in depth as Seb's tactical breakdown, I'll tell you that now. So yeah, we'll rely on the Coventry fan to put us right if we do go wrong. But sort of a brief outline. I think we all know they are runaway leaders at the moment, 10 points clear of second. They've only lost one all season, away at Wrexham. They have scored 50 goals in 18 games, leaving them with a plus 32 goal difference, which is quite staggering at this stage. They come into this off the back of 5 straight wins. We discussed last week, are they catchable? Last week we said no, and that was before we lost at Oxford and drew at Blackburn. So we expect them to stay the course, don't we, George?
Yeah, we do. I mean, it kind of gets to that point in the season. We've played 18 games now, and yeah, not only have they blown teams away, but they've also won games in very difficult circumstances. It appears that they have that unity that we had in 23-24, and they're going to have to fall off a cliff to not only to not win the league, but also to miss out on automatics at this point. So yeah, I would be stunned if they don't do it. And clearly we're heading to January when with this opportunity you would assume that they will back Lampard and bring some fresh impetus in. So yeah, I'm really intrigued actually to see Saturday. Like I don't really have us as favourites, but this opportunity that the squad have to go up against the best side in the league quite clearly, and to kind of show everyone, show themselves, show the manager, show us in the stadium. No, we can do this. We can compete at this level comfortably. So. Yeah, it will be interesting, but we are definitely playing not only the form side in the league, but the form side in the Football League. Really, their form is incredible.
Yeah, I think when we did our show last Friday, I said to catch them, we'll need to beat them twice this month, and I think that was when we were 13 points behind, was it? And yeah, after the last week, I think they are just, because we don't look like putting together a 5-match winning streak, for example, and they just don't look like they'll lose a couple, of course they will, but it's such a big gap to make up. I think we're all battling out for that second place now, I think, barring some huge turnaround. But brief sort of potted history of Coventry, it's a real good news story, I think. Promoted from League 2 in 17-18 season via the playoffs under Mark Robbins. 2 seasons later they won League 1 in that COVID curtailed season where I think Marcus Evans chanced his arm at trying to get us in the playoffs. I don't know how he was thinking we were going to get that, but yeah, I think we don't have many fond memories of that sort of period of time. And they've been gradually building in the Championship since that promotion, Coventry. Of course, they had all the rent disputes at the Rico under previous owners, which saw them head to Northampton to play football, head to St Andrews to have their home games. But the CBS Arena is now theirs. The Sisu era at Coventry ended in 2023, and local businessman Doug King purchased the club, and they've just gone from strength to strength. Although we would love them to fall away for our own benefit, it is a really good story, and it's good to see a club like Coventry on the rise again, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also excellent for the league to have had the start to the season that we've had now. Not only a Coventry flying, but there's hardly been a parachute team in the top six at any point. And I think that's really good for the league in general. I think Lampard himself has a lot of fans currently across. He doesn't need to be managing Coventry. I think Joe said on the flagship the other day he could be earning £3 million a year, sat on Sky Sports every Sunday. So for him to have kind of come in and really, built a brilliant sort of relationship with the fans. Clearly the players love him. He's got an excellent coaching team behind him, and it's a brilliant feel good story. So if we're not going to win the league, I think few people would begrudge Coventry.
Yeah, it is good to see a non-parachute team sort of sticking it to the rest of the league, to our detriment, of course, at the moment. But Lampard came in 28th of November last year, so he's been in charge just over a year. Obviously, they got to the playoffs last year, and like you say, it seems a very easy sort of, any former England player who goes to manage it seems to be a real glee at watching them fail. So I am really pleased to see Frank Lampard doing really well, and like you say, he's doesn't have to be doing it. And I know that's not a reason to sort of celebrate him doing well, but yeah, I'm sure he's getting paid handsomely still. But yeah, he's doing a great job, and it's good to see one of those golden generation not sort of being a meme for a little while anyway. Team news for Coventry: Brandon Thomas-Asante will be missing with a hamstring injury. Sakamoto is a doubt, I believe. I think he went off concussed, but I don't know if that concussion protocol is now passed and he is fit again. But I remember thinking he was really lively when we last played them at Portman Road. And Haji Wright, 7.7 million signing, is on course to return from a thigh injury as well. So maybe a couple of players coming back into the side. Eccles came off in the second half of their win over Charlton. Of course, Luke Wolfenden on the bench returning to Portman Road. Don't think he will start, but I think this Coventry fan in the chat has mentioned they've not got a huge squad, but I think they do have a decent options when there are injuries. We've seen the last few weeks when Thomas-Asante has been injured. Ellis Sims has come in and really stepped up. Sakamoto, they've got good options on the wings as well. They've invested well after the big money departures of Gyökeres, Hamer and Sheaf, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and I think it's been interesting to see the sort of if you said 3-4 years ago to Coventry fans you're going to sell all of those big names and you're still going to be sort of up there. I think there's also a couple of players in that side that if they don't get promoted, which clearly they're almost certainly going to, but if they weren't to, they've got the option to sell for big money again. Grimes, Van Evik. It's really impressive, and it must give a lot of hope to a lot of sides in the Championship. We're in that slightly different bracket, being the parachute team, but not only Coventry and obviously Middlesbrough having a great season. At the moment, just reading through that top six, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Millwall, Stoke, Preston, Bristol City, and Coventry are showing all of those sides that you can do it. And I think there was a period of time not too long ago where it was basically agreed that only parachute teams get promoted from the Championship automatically, and if you do go up, you almost certainly come back down. And this season we've seen that rip up with all of those teams in the Championship, and then obviously Sunderland doing what they're doing in the Prem. So yeah, a bit of a chasing in time to be an Ipswich fan, having gone up, come down very unsuccessfully, and now we're struggling to get back out of the league. But it's good for football, I think, that Coventry are doing this.
Yeah, as I said, 5 straight wins coming into this fixture. I can't imagine they're going to make too many changes unless they absolutely have to. So it's going to be Rushworth in goal, Van Ewijk, Bobby Thomas, Kitchen and De Silva as a back four. Then they have Grimes and Torp as the two sort of sitting midfielders, if you like, who like to sort of dictate the tempo of the game. Rudoni, Eccles and Mason Clark in that front three. Potentially Sakamoto might come back in, and Ellis Sims, who's on fire at the moment up front. Who in that lineup strikes the most fear into you?
I've heard really good things about Grimes this year, so I'm intrigued to kind of see him. Van Ewijk, I think, is probably the best right back in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes up against Davis. I think that's probably one of the best matchups on the pitch. I know that Jack Redoni is getting a lot of flowers from everyone at the moment. So yeah, I think in general, just excited to see them and see how we match up to them. And obviously Sims at one point was a massive target for us and for McKenna. And I think this season he's shown why McKenna was so after him for a while. So yeah, just lots of quality across the team, and lots of people mentioning Wolfie in the chat. I think it's clear that you know, in a different season, Wolfie would have gone and played plenty by now. But how do you change this? Well, I say how do you change a winning team? Kieran McKenna's happy to, but Lampard's got that back four, and it's not really going to change too much. So yeah, excited to see how they line up and see how we match up to them.
Do you think Luke Wolfenden will be happy with his, obviously still early days, but do you think he wanted to go to play football, and he hasn't played a lot of football, but they are riding high. He looks like he's going to be returning to the Premier League, but how do you think he'll be feeling about his move so far?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm sure he'll probably be taking a little bit of solace in where we are in the league at the moment. Clearly, if he'd have stayed, he probably still wouldn't be playing that much football. So I think he's probably happy to have gone and taken on the challenge. And we're 18 games in. You know, anything could happen. There could be a change. Wolfie might play the final 10, 15 games of the season and be part of a title winning campaign. So I think it's probably too early for him or anyone to judge. I think he's been sort of pretty harshly judged when he has come in, and you know, it can't be that easy to not only go into a new team and a new club, but then to, you know, have to jump in sort of for one game here or there. So yeah, we'll see. But I think you can't be too disappointed if your team is top of the league.
I don't think it helps that one of the games that we know he stood in for was the only defeat of the season at Wrexham, and Kiefer Moore scored a hat-trick. So yeah, that probably hasn't helped him so far. But yeah, like I say, plenty of time for injuries to kick in, and I'm sure he'll get a run at some point to show what he can do. So that's the state of play with the two sides going into Saturday. Time for some predictions. So do let us know your predictions in the chat. Are you feeling confident at home, or after the last couple of results, are we going into this one a bit worried about what could be the result at 5 o'clock on Saturday? George, I'll let you start with your prediction for Saturday. What are you going for? Because you've been bullish the last couple of weeks. I'm going to throw you under the bus here. I think you said Wrexham was going to be a 4-0 and Oxford was going to be a 3-0. So
yeah,
are you still bullish?
Yeah, for top tier members who've watched Henry and I's show the last couple of weeks, I have been incredibly bullish about the Town, and it hasn't gone well. However, I really can't sit here on the main stage on a Thursday night and predict a defeat. I just can't bring myself to do it. So I'm going to go for a relatively cagey 1-1, but I'm certainly not feeling bold enough to predict a win. What about you, mate?
Yeah, similar. I'm not going to predict a defeat on an Ipswich Town podcast with the club we support, but I can see it being quite open though, rather than a cagey. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I kind of got sort of, if you remember the Sheffield Wednesday game at home when it was sort of a massive game in that promotion run in, they went 2-0 up. Portman Road was a bit edgy. They had chances to go 3 up, and then we fought back. I've got that sort of energy about Saturday. But a point in reality is not a great result really for where we are. We need to start trying to put a run together. I think we've said it a lot, and everyone said it. It's a really close division. There's no standout team other than Coventry. So that second place is up for grabs, and it's just an open goal for someone to put together 3, 4, 5 wins, and you'll probably be a few points clear in second. So yeah, we need to start winning some games, especially at home as well. But the form hasn't been there recently. A couple of draws, Wrexham and Watford. So
yeah, I like that comment from Joe there. We must be due some more Philogene magic, and I think that's it, right? There's every chance that Saturday the boys do turn up and we put in a performance and we turn Coventry over, and that would leave us again in a place where we could probably have a really positive flagship on Sunday night.
Some mixed results in the chat. I'm seeing still some confidence high, a couple of draws and a couple of fear, and we're in for a hammering. 3-3 would be a real barnstormer. Yeah, we shall see. time now to hear from our sponsors.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Yeah, thank you to Atwells and also to One Stop Badges, who are exclusive partners to the pre-match show every Thursday. Links to find out about both companies are in our show description. And a quick look at what is coming up on Blue Monday over the next few days as well. Obviously, no weekend preview tomorrow because we are doing this now for top tier members. But the World Cup draw is taking place tomorrow, and myself, Mikey, and Joe will be reflecting on that in an international break special for the top tier members tomorrow. I imagine we'll jump on after the draw tomorrow evening, so it should be with you late Friday or early Saturday. And then on Sunday, the flagship show will be in its usual slot at 8 p.m. on YouTube. And it is a landmark episode on Sunday. It is show number 1000. Which is quite incredible achievement from everyone involved. To join the team on Sunday to look back at Coventry and 1,000 episodes. I'm sure they'll do some reminiscing of some highlights over the years. As I said earlier, the Blackburn reaction is still available as well with Mikey and Craig. And for you top tier members, of course, you'll all have all the access to the array of blogs. And on Monday, Beyond the Scoreline will be available to you as well. And then next Thursday, Rich and Seb will be back in this slot with the pre-match show ahead of our trip to Leicester. All the other information you could possibly need is on bluemondayitfc.co.uk. Now, moving on to Portman Road, Heaven and Hell, which is a feature that we do on the weekend preview where we pick one game from against the opponents on home turf that brings back wonderful memories and one that gives you nightmares. So keen to hear all the chat's opinions on this as well. If you've got any memories of Coventry at Portman Road that you remember fondly, ones that you think, oh God, I wish I couldn't remember that one. And I was looking at the stats for this. I always pick games that come to my mind that I've been to, which is sort of from 98 onwards, essentially. And I was looking at the stats. Since a 2-0 defeat at Portman Road in 1994 in the Premier League, we've only lost 3 times at home to the Sky Blues. Since then, we've had 11 wins and 2 draws in all competitions. And the overall record, home and away, is 41 wins to us and 25 to them. So I'm sure Coventry fans might be thinking this is like, oh God, we've got to go to Ipswich. We always lose there. Because we do have a good record against them. And the nature of that recent history means I am picking out 2 pretty recent games. We're going to start with Portman Road Hell. Take you back, sadly, to 2020. We mentioned that COVID curtailed season earlier in the show. It was a 1-0 defeat for Town in League One. Matt Godden with a first half winner. Coventry went 5 points clear at the top that day with our playoff hopes fading after 7 defeats in 9 in League One. I mean, we're not too happy with current form, but blimey, we've kicked on since then, haven't we? And that actually proved to be the last game of that season as COVID came in and curtailed the season. That was the year that Paul Lambert had signed his new 5-year deal that January as well. And the table was decided on points per game, and we finished 11th, our lowest finish since 1952-53. So that gives me real flashbacks to a really bad era. I don't know about you, George.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think I don't really enjoy the Portman Road Heaven and Hell for the Hells, but we do enjoy the Heavens.
Yes, and that brings me on to the Heaven, because I think I've seen it mentioned a couple of times already in the chat, but our last home tie against Coventry, I'm going for December, similar time of year, December 2023. And everyone remembers that Burns Trivella goal. Is it a Trivella? Outside of the
Collins already popped it in the chat, Trivella for sure.
Yes, I get mixed up with my trick, what the tricks are called. I was thinking when I thought this game, who scored the other goal? Everyone remembers that Burns goal, but poor old other goal scorer. See who can get it in the chat quickest. They missed a late penalty. which could have made things interesting the last sort of 10 minutes or so. And they did get a goal late on through an own goal from Brandon Williams, but that was one of 4 straight wins before Christmas that year. And that is exactly what we want to be doing this time of year as well, in this season. Couple of your other memories in there as well. Neil, remember Danny Thomas scoring a screamer at Portman Road in 1982?
Yeah, Henry and I often say on our show that our memories go back to sort of early 90s at best. So thanks for dropping that in, Neil. That's slightly before our time, but yeah, cracker. My heaven is my all-time favourite Ipswich Town goal, and I hope most people know what I'm going to say here. The Pablo game back in 2010 under Roy Keane. And if anyone can remember, at the time, we just couldn't win for love nor money. We kept conceding late equalisers. And in the 94th, 95th minute, long ball into the box, bang, big Richard Wood for Coventry scored the equaliser. And then straight from kickoff, down the other end, Pablo lobbed the goalie in absolutely vintage Pablo fashion. Yeah, one of my favourite Ipswich Town memories and favourite Ipswich Town goals. That was an absolute belter.
That was during my university days, where every Saturday I would listen to Radio Suffolk. So I remember where I was for that game, but sadly I wasn't at Portman Road.
Yeah, Brennan's commentary is pretty iconic from that as well.
Yeah, we've got a floodlight failure in 72 there as well, and a couple of people have got it correct. George Hurst was the other goal scorer in that 2-1 win last time against Coventry. Time to look at the general picture now in the Championship. We are going to have some questions at the end of the show, so if you start to get your questions in, we'll do our best to answer them after we've had a bit of Championship chat. This week, I guess the main newsy story is that Sheffield Wednesday have received a further deduction. We already all thought they were long gone anyway, so this deduction leaves them 27 points adrift. So I guess they're pleased that they're getting all the deductions out of the way now, so it's not going to affect them next season. I think that's the bright spot for them anyway. The other fixture that stood out to me this week is Leicester away at Derby, a Midlands derby of sorts. The Leicester unrest is getting higher every week. Defeat for Cifuentes, could that be the end of him? And from our own perspective, we play them next Saturday at the King Power, so we ideally would like him in charge with all the unrest going on, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it's a strange one with Leicester. I don't know if the wider issues at the club. I think we're expecting a points deduction at some point soon for FFP and PSR failings. Basically, I think that allied with the weird sort of ownership mess means that possibly Cifuentes is kind of getting away with it, or at least the fans' attention is elsewhere. But yeah, whatever you want to say about them, they are falling like a stone and really struggling. I was watching the Sheffield United game on the telly last week, and I think Sheffield United went 3-0 up in about half an hour. And obviously Leicester came back and nearly nicked the point. They only lost 3-2 in the end. But yeah, the King Power was not a happy place when it was 3-0 down. So yeah, they're in a mess. And I think, weirdly, they started the season the best out of us, Southampton, and those guys. So, yeah, surprising to see them. They've got so much individual quality, but they are hugely struggling. And I think they aren't going to be troubling the top 6 anytime soon.
Every time I see their highlights, I'll cover them. Fatawu and Mavadidi everything seems to come from them. They've got 2 really good wingers that can dig them out of holes.
A good friend of mine is a Leicester fan, and he was saying to me that the away form is better because it's got so toxic at the King Power that the players are almost visibly like worried about making a mistake. Whereas away from home, you can obviously play that sort of slight bit more cautiously. You don't have to constantly play forwards, and they are typically getting better results. I don't know if the data backs it up, but that was definitely his view. So possibly that away from home this weekend means that they might get a result.
Yeah, I think the less pressure in front of an away end rather than a toxic atmosphere at the King Power at the moment. A couple of the games that caught my eye. Hull v Borough kicks off the weekend. That's a big game. Borough can extend that sort of gap for for second. We prefer Hull to get a win to keep them within touching distance of ourselves. Southampton Birmingham is a big game. Got Bristol City, a 6v3 playoff. Two teams in the playoffs who are going well this season. And on next Wednesday we play Stoke, who are away at Sheffield United. And Sheffield United have reeled off 3 wins on the spin. They are 10 points off 6th. Is it too late for them to surge up the table and mount a playoff bid, do you think?
I mean, I would have said no a month ago, but again, that the table is so incredibly congested that you can put 5 wins together, they'll be right back in the picture. So it's certainly not too late. And it is, Wilder is starting to get them going. Interesting comment there from Shabby about who's going to go down with Sheffield Wednesday. I think he's got Portsmouth and Swansea to go down. It's hard to disagree with that right now, but obviously things will change quickly. I think Swansea will definitely hope for an improvement under the new manager, and I think Portsmouth probably will go down the consistency line and hope that Messina will have enough to bring them out of it. But it's going to be a right scrap down there. I do think you may be missing one team in particular, Shabby, who we hope will all go down, and their current points total suggests they might. So, I still haven't seen enough from Norwich to suggest that they can stay up, but maybe that will start to turn now, having they've got that win against QPR.
Yeah, I was going to say they play in yellow, and it's not Watford, if you didn't know who we're talking about. You mentioned the battle at the bottom. There is a couple of really big games at the bottom this week. Charlton against Portsmouth. Charlton have been sliding down the table. 4 defeats on the spin. Portsmouth in the relegation zone. There's 6 points between them. So a little bit of a 6-pointer, I guess. Charlton win, and it's a 6-point gap. Sorry, 9-point gap. And if Portsmouth can get the win, then it gives them a bit of breathing space. But also Swansea v Oxford as well. Swansea with a new manager, not got a win under him yet, and they've been sinking as well.
Yeah, that's huge for Swansea, because on paper they should be better than Oxford, and if they win that, it's like, okay, right, we've got a bit of breathing space now, and then you're probably looking at Oxford, Swansea, Portsmouth and Norwich battling over that spot. Swansea have got it in them to maybe get away from that. Blackburn at 18th on 21 points, 4 above the drop, but from what we saw, in fact, from what I've seen in both games, obviously they cancelled one, and then Tuesday, I think Blackburn have got enough about them. So, I think that relegation picture is starting to become a little bit clearer, and I think in probably 2 or 3 weeks' time, it will be pretty clear which teams are really scrapping to stay up.
Yeah, that brings us on to the banker, which is the feature where we pick out 1 home win, 1 away win, and 1 draw from this weekend's fixtures. And the word banker, when we came up with this idea, suggests that it's clear and obvious. But as you all know, the Championship is increasingly hard to predict. I scored 2 points last week, and it was 0 point for you, George, meaning I've established a 3-point lead, 2017. I got Coventry beating Charlton and Preston winning at Sheffield Wednesday. I went for 2 real open goals to pick from. And my incorrect one was a predicted draw between Norwich and QPR. And sadly, that did not go my way. You got all 3 wrong, I'm afraid. You had Wrexham beating Blackburn. They got pegged back in the last minute for a draw. You had Ipswich winning at Oxford. No, need I say no more on that. And a draw between Stoke and Hull, as Hull snatched a last-minute winner there. So this week, I'll kick us off. I've gone for my home win, Southampton to beat Birmingham. Southampton, as we know, have been on a little bit of a good run. They had a setback last week at Millwall, but been going really well. And Birmingham are not great away from home. They are 21st in the away table. So I fancy the Saints to get another win, and perhaps that might confirm his full-time appointment, the manager.
Yeah, my home win for the weekend, I've gone for Blackburn. I think they'll be bang up for it after Tuesday night's injustice, and they are, of course, playing Sheffield Wednesday. And for those who don't watch Henry and I's weekend preview every week, we basically pick Sheffield Wednesday to lose every single week in the banker. So, I've gone with Blackburn this week. Away from home, I've got a feeling that Stoke are going to spoil Sheffield United's party. I know we've just sort of bigged them up, but I still don't quite believe in Wilder at Sheffield United. And they still seem a bit of a strange over-bloated squad. So, yeah, I think Stoke may go there and sort of halt the promotion party for them before it's got going. What about you, mate? Where you gone?
Oh yeah, I was going to say we usually pick Sheffield Wednesday to win or Coventry to win, but we're obviously not going to pick Coventry to win this weekend for obvious reasons. So I've gone for. It was tough finding an away one this week, and interested if anyone's got opinions on their home, away, and draw bankers in the comments. But
yeah, please
I've
do put them in the comments.
Yeah, I've gone for West Brom to win at QPR. I say that with little confidence, but West Brom either win or lose away. They haven't drawn any so far this season, and QPR less than convincing at home, as shown against us. So I've gone for Ryan Mason to continue their sort of mini revival. I thought he was in real trouble last week when they were losing at home to Swansea, but they managed to turn that around. That was a really big result for him, I think. And if he can back that up with another win at QPR, they're, like we said at the top of the show, they're looking at the playoffs again after a couple of wins. So I've gone for West Brom to win at QPR. And my draw is between Preston and Wrexham. Wrexham, as we found out the other week, really hard team to break down, already drawn 4 on the road. Preston having a really great season. I wouldn't say they're the most dynamic side, but they're really hard to break down as well themselves. So I can see that one being a stalemate. And you have gone for 2 teams who wear horrible coloured kits as your draw.
Yeah, I think I've gone for Watford Norwich to draw. That has all the hallmarks of a classic Championship 1-1 to me. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think Clement is probably getting a slight reaction from the boys up the road. So on the road to Watford and a point. But yeah, we'll see. I'm a bit annoyed that you've taken out such a strong 3-point lead now. But it's a long season, mate. It's a long season. I'm just outside the banker playoffs, but I'm coming for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm taking it week by week. And we'll see how we got on, top tier members, next Friday. So yeah, we've got time to answer some of your. We've got enough. Well, just looking at the comments there, I've seen a couple of people who predicted an Oxford win. So that was
shabby. Have a word with yourself, pal. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, Sheffield United will be well clear of relegation after that start. Playoffs would be amazing. Interesting to see all your opinions on the Championship picture and. Better predicting than us if you predicted an Oxford win. I predicted a draw, I think. But time to get into some questions then. Michael Warner George says, who would you like to see start as the 10 against Coventry on Saturday?
Yeah, probably the $1 million question from the lineup on Saturday. And normally I like to try and answer these questions with a semblance of what I think McKenna will do, plus my own sort of opinion. But after the game, I think he sort of came out and as we've said previously, he's really given it to the squad and makes me think that he might do something a bit different. Now, personally, I would love to see Kayus start there and then Núñez to play the deeper role rather than the other way around. And I think having Kayus on the pitch is always, if you can get him on the pitch, I think you should. And if you can then accommodate him and negate some of his weaknesses, then I also think that's a positive. So I would like to see Kayus, but I think it will probably be Núñez. What about you, Henry?
I think I mentioned it earlier. I'd like to see Philogene in the 10 purely for something different because nothing else really works that well. I wouldn't mind seeing Egler there as well if he wanted to try something different. Either or would suit me. Philogene can go both ways, which is unpredictable as well for a defence to come up against. But I think it will be Núñez because that is the player that has worked best in that problem position so far. And I don't see... Maybe he will mix it up, like you say, after sort of as much as of a dressing down as they're going to get, I think, on Tuesday after the game from McKenna. But I don't see him going wild. I think we know what he's like. He is pretty... I was going to say consistent with what he's going to do. We know the lineup isn't consistent, but I think we know what the general aim of the tactics are. So I think Núñez will be in that 10. Another one from Michael here. The team that plays with Coventry should start the next 5 games. What do you make of that? I guess it depends on how the result goes.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And I think that consistency of selection, it kind of all comes down to, if we're winning games, right? If we lose against Coventry, no one's going to be asking that team to play at home against Stoke. I would like to see things settle. I would like to see the back four stay the same for a couple of games. But there's not much of a muchness between a lot of those front six, and you know, is it okay that there's rotation in some aspects? Yes, but the wholesale changes, I think now general fan consensus seems to be no. So yeah, I don't think we'll see that team stay the same as it has done, but yeah, I think we'd all like to see it just settle slightly.
If we put in a brilliant performance and win on Saturday, yeah, I think we would all like to see the team stay as settled as possible. But this time of year as well, it is probably the only time of year where we do accept rotation a bit more, because the games over Christmas coming up are ridiculous sort of schedule. So yeah, we'll see how Saturday goes. Another 3-game week coming up, of course, as well. Stoke and then Leicester. So there will be more rotation, I'm sure. But yeah, I would like to see a more settled lineup. We've got one here from Blagger. Should the top priority for Town in the January window be to find someone to provide cover for Matusiwa?
Yeah, I mean, I would say no. I think the top priority for Town in the window is to find a goal scorer, be that a 9 or a 10, to be honest, which at the moment, yeah, I think Hurst needs some proper competition. I don't think Azon is the answer. And we desperately need somebody to come in and just make that number 10 shirt their own. I would bring Chaplin back in a heartbeat, but I don't think the club in its current state is probably going to be sort of going backwards to find players. I don't think we'll be seeing Sam Morsey in a Town shirt again before those questions begin. But yeah, I would like to see us try and sign a goal scorer. I do understand the need for Matasiwa cover, but I think that Jack Taylor could play that right-hand side role if need be in a pinch. And I think when you've got Taylor, Kayust, Nunez and Matasiwa, it's quite difficult to add a fifth senior central midfielder to the squad. So I don't anticipate that, but completely understand why people want to see it. What do you think, Henry?
I think it is a position we do need cover for. If we're going what the top priority is, for me, it's a striker, and we know how difficult it is in January to sign players, and you're sort of held to ransom a bit when someone knows you need something. But perhaps we might get in a loan like we did with Kiefer Moore, that just provide that backup, because we've seen when Athon has started in place of Hurst, there's a real drop off. When Athon has come on, he's looked really decent, as I think Joe has mentioned on the show and others have. You do look a bit better when you're coming on against a tired defence, and it is easier to sort of impress, if you like. So having another striker up there to push George Hurst, I think, is the priority in January. Whether that be a loan, more likely to be a loan than a permanent signing, unless we've got irons and fires abroad that we don't know about. But I do think cover for that Matasiwa role is important, because he's going to be suspended soon, and there isn't a like for like. I know you said Taylor could do it. He's just not going to be grabbing all those second balls like Matasiwa does. And even as I said earlier as well, Matasiwa's not been playing well. If we had a backup, he might perhaps be looking at sort of having a game out before coming back in on Wednesday. So yeah, I think they're the two positions that are the priority. Even just a centre midfielder alongside Matasiwa as well, because we haven't nailed that position. We've had Taylor play there. We've had Kayus play there. I'm not really sure what Nunez role he is sort of long-term been signed for.
Yeah, and I think that mix of players, they all seem really quite different. And weirdly, none of them can massively play together, at least not consistently. I think there was a period about 3 or 4 games ago, and this is where, we all sort of oscillate between different views, but we thought we'd cracked it with Taylor and Matasiwa, and then Taylor has a couple of quiet games and gets hooked on Tuesday night at half time, and everyone's like, well, yeah, we knew Jack Taylor wasn't the answer, but he had a couple of good games and he was the answer. So it's an interesting position. I think you're right with Nunez. He's not a 10, but he sort of doesn't really look like a 6 either, and interesting. That's why I would like to see Kayus given a run in that 10 role, and then, with him and Nunez on the pitch, it would be interesting to see how they combine.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting January window to see how much we go for it, if you like. Last call for any questions before we wrap up. I Like I said, I'll be in the Cobbold on Saturday. Looking forward to Saturday 3 p.m. George, how are you going to be following it on Saturday? I think we've had children's birthday parties you've been following from afar. We've had famous cyclists' birthday parties. How are you going to be following on Saturday?
I believe my diary is clear, but for anyone who doesn't follow Henry and I's show, I live in Manchester, so I don't get to go to many home games. My dad will be in the upper north, as he is every week, with his pals. But yeah, I'll just be at home, but I'll be following the game closely. And yeah, I think I am starting to look forward to it now. Once the disappointment of Tuesday has really sort of finally worn off, it's a brilliant game, right? We're playing top of the league at home, 3 p.m. kickoff, and we have got one of the best squads in the league. So let's just hope that the last two results kind of give the whole club a bit of a kick up the arse, and we can pull something out.
Yeah, another big week ahead for Ipswich. The picture. We've got one more question just come in from Paul. Would you say it's fair to say there isn't just one problem currently? Recruitment, tactics, and constant rotation are all causing issues. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's a mix of things. I think probably of those three you've listed, Paul, I would say that recruitment is the key there, because recruitment then leads into tactics, which then leads into rotation. And so if we'd have signed, the exact right players to fit the system, then I think we probably wouldn't be having these problems. And I feel like we probably didn't sign the exact right profile of player for each position that we needed. And we also didn't get the main man that we wanted all summer, right? Hayden Hackney would probably mean that the central midfield answer I just gave 2 minutes ago is a very different proposition. So yeah, I think recruitment is probably the biggest issue of those. But yeah, there's lots of things at play, and I think it's been very easy to be negative since Oxford and since Blackburn. But we've played 18 games, we've won 7, we've drawn 7, we've only lost 4. We've got the opportunity now to kind of go on and go again. And yeah, the evidence isn't there that we will do that, but we've got a great squad. We've got a manager who I think every other team in the league, bar Coventry, would happily swap theirs for. So let's hope that McKenna and the guys can turn it around this weekend.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one last question there from Michael Warner. Will we still get to the top 2? Yes. As I said earlier, second is an open goal for someone to just put a run together. And I still have faith that Kieran McKenna, we know what a good manager he is. He will sort it out in time, and we are going to go on this run that we need to. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but no one else is grabbing that second spot, so it's still there for us. So yeah, we'll end on a positive note that we will get promoted to the Premier League again by finishing second.
Churchillian stuff, mate. Love it.
Yeah, the Joe Fairs role for one night only. But that's about it for this evening. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm sorry we weren't Rich and Seb for people who like seeing them on their Thursday nights. And thank you for all your interaction throughout the show. As we've mentioned, we are over on Top Tier every Friday with this show, a condensed version of this show. But remember, we will be back tomorrow, Top Tier members, with the international break after the World Cup draw. Episode 1000 on the flagship on Sunday, a real milestone to celebrate. And it's just about time to go and watch I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here at 9:00. So we'll be back next Friday for Top Tier members. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.